The process of construction and specifically the phases that construction goes through are very important for you to understand. This is one of the things that is very complex in the construction process is understanding the timeline and expectations. So can you give us an idea of what this process looks like?
Yeah, I will. Because you as a homeowner really need to understand it's going to take certain steps. And like most things, some things have to happen
Mm,
before something else can happen. So there's definitely phases that have to go in sequences that go in there. So let's kind of go through those and I'll talk about each one and help you do it. Before you can ever start your building, you have to design it.
yeah.
Okay, so the very first step you're going to work through is working through someone to create a design and a set of construction plans that you'll turn into the city with your building permit. And those will be used for what are the second part of it. Now that I know what I'm going to build, how am I going to build it and how much is it
Mm,
going to cost me? So you'll take those plans and you'll give them to different contractors. And those contractors will then come back to you with their proposal of what they would build or what they would charge you to build that particular thing.
gotcha.
So you get through that and that fence. Now, once you've decided, oh, I got a great contractor, we're now ready to go, then you're going to have to get permission to build on your home.
Yeah.
And that permission comes in the form of a building permit.
Okay.
So you'll use those plans to take out to the city, turn in your contractor, apply for a building permit, and a building permit will be issued, which is the city say, you're all good, go ahead and then start building on your property.
Yeah.
And all we ask is that you follow these following steps to get through there, okay? However, before you start building, what you really have is a phase, which is, I gotta prep my site,
Mm,
okay? And site preparation is really kind of walking through and making sure that if you got any junk in the yard or you've got an old building or you want to clear some things away, and it's
gotcha.
talking with the contractor about saying, hey, I really want to protect this tree. I don't want it to get destroyed, or I don't want that. It's also, where are you going to put the dumpster for all of the tracks?
Oh,
Who's
yeah.
going to park out front? You're really kind of going through everything in your plan of what's going to happen on site with
Right.
this construction. And you and I, Mr. Contractor, need to define that before we start having heavy equipment and materials and everything else showing up on my property.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's really an important part of it. Once you get through that, you're really going to get into the construction.
Okay.
And one of the messiest parts is the very first part of it.
What's that?
And that is, I got to put in a foundation.
Oh,
And a foundation means I got to dig a hole.
yep.
So you're going to have an excavator and a tractor probably come through and get to your backyard and start digging out this material. Where are they going to put that material?
Gosh, yeah.
How are they going to manage that material? And they got to move it to the side, and then they're going to basically put up forms for your foundation and footing. They're going to pour that. Then they're going to move that dirt back in place and
Yeah.
compact it down so that they can then start to build a building on top of that foundation.
Mm,
That moves us into the next step. The next step is now we're going to frame the floor, the walls, the roof, and build the physical structure. And that's basically framing and putting that structure together.
okay.
And so we need to understand what's going to happen in that area. And that's going to be where you're going to have carpenters out there cutting 2x4s and nailing and doing all kinds of stuff. And it goes really fast because the building goes up.
Yeah.
And you're going, wow, this is really happening fast. That's just one phase of it. Then they disappear. And now what you got to do is you got to have all of the things that are going to be hidden in the walls, which
Mm,
is your electrical wires, your plumbing pipes, your drains, the heating and air conditioning, all of that stuff that's going to mostly hide either in the attic or the floor or the walls. Those subcontractors are going to come in and put them through the building.
gotcha.
So all of your electrical, plumbing, everything that. Once that's done, now you're thinking, okay, we can start closing it in.
Yeah.
Well, now you come to the first real big inspection that the city provides.
Okay.
They do what's called a four-way inspection. And it's four-way because there are four major things that they're looking for. They come and they look at the structure of the building.
Hmm.
That's why we haven't covered anything over. They look to make sure that structurally all of the right materials have been used to support this building, to support the
Mm,
roof, that we've used the right brackets, the right nails, the right
wow.
everything so that it's not going to fall apart in the first windstorm.
Yeah.
They also go through and they look at all of the electrical. Is the electrical in place, and is it right? Do we have the right type of service? Do we know what's going on? And they do that with the framing, the electrical, the plumbing, and the heating and air conditioning. So those are the 4 things that they do. And they do that prior to any other work going on, because any work from this point forward will hide.
Yeah, it'll cover that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll hide that. So you basically are kind of stuck until you get that 4-way inspection complete from the city, and then you'll start seeing things happening into the next phase.
Okay.
Okay. And that's what we're going to jump into. Now you're going to start to see the finished portion of it, which is now I got to insulate the walls. I got to take care of that insulation. Then I can put up my sheetrock. I can wrap the outside of the building with the little plastic paper, and then I can start putting the siding up, and I can do that. So now you start to see that hiding all of the interior of it.
Yeah.
And I can finish the roof. Meaning that I can put the shingles or whatever I want on there. So now we're getting the building to where it's in that shell is getting finished and the rooms are getting taken care of. I put the sheetrock up, I've mudded, I've taped, I've got it so that it's all there. Then there's another phase. Before you can paint, you've got to have your door jambs and all the finish work, and the base molding and everything else put in. So that's your finished carpentry. And that's where you come in and people are starting to put the molding around the doors, the baseboards. They're also doing things like building your closets, they're going to come in. Everything that needs to be done before you paint.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then you're going to paint. That's another big step. And then once you get to the paint, now you're really to finishing up your property. And that means I'm going to put the floors down.
Yeah.
I'm going to have things like, my carpet or engineered wood flooring or tile or whatever else. I'm going to have bathroom cabinets, kitchen cabinets show up, and they're going to start to get installed and taken care of. Countertops are going to be put on. I'm going to put in the toilets and the sink fixtures and stuff like that.
Wow.
I'm going to have the electricians come back and put the light switches on and the outlets in and all that stuff. Now you're starting to finish this to where it's starting to become livable.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm seeing it take shape. It exists.
Yeah. And then one of the last areas you got is you kind of built that thing, but now you've got to really talk about, I got to do the last things that sort of get this thing in, which is I am going to go through and do the landscape, okay, which is probably started back about the time you were doing finished carpentry.
Right.
But that's when you're big, because you're not really doing anything on the outside that's going to destroy it anymore. So now you're going to start final grade. You're going to start bringing in your grass and your plants and stuff like that. You're also going to go through and make sure that everything's working inside of your house and get to that, last phase, which is you're going to get to your final inspection.
Okay.
Now there are 2 inspections you're going to have.
Not the 4-way?
No, you're going to have one from the city. The city comes in to tell you whether it's livable.
Okay.
They're not going to tell you if it looks good or if it's been finished well or whatever else. That's all they're worried about. Is it safe? Do they have all the outlets that they need to have? Are the smoke detectors working? Are there handrails on the stairs? They're basically saying this is a safe place to live. Not that, hey, this is a really good looking place. They don't make that judgment.
Okay.
So you have a second inspection, which is you. You are the property owner and you've got to give it a final inspection, which is you're now inspecting it for fit, form, and function.
Yeah.
Is it what I expected? Is it, is it painted right? Is there scuff marks on it? You need to do it. And so you need to go through that final inspection stage and negotiate with your contractor, getting it to that wrapped up. And we've got a section we talk specifically about that a little bit later.
Oh, I love that, because the fact that you're watching all these phases come together and hearing all those details is so vital to understand.
And so we've gone through what is probably going to be a 6-month process in less than 3 minutes.
That was a record.
And I can guarantee you most people have probably forgotten. That's really why they want to get in touch with someone like us to help them figure out what are the phases, what's going on, how do I plan, and how do I make this happen so that it works well for me. Well,
and what's the best way for them to get in contact with you to do that?
I'm glad you asked that. The best way is to send us an email. And that email is at hello@aduutah.com. So just figure out what your question is and send it to hello@aduutah.com.